It really does work like the review says it does. I cannot believe that after the first few days, I didn't feel as sluggish or clogged up. It has had a profound impact on my physical, emotional well being. I'm skeptical as most people about products and their claims, and I never write reviews, but this is a wonderful product and I recommend it to everyone. Great product. It has brought my blood pressure from the mid 150s over the 80s to the mid 130s over mid 80s, along with diet and exercise in just the past couple of months. Excellent. Thank you, David. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. And it is Wednesday, September 21st. Sorry, September 12th. I misread that. I'm trying to adjust audio levels at the same time I'm doing this opening announcement. Anyway, it's Wednesday. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about today. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials, keeping us out of trouble, ready to answer the phone when you call on in. So let's get the weather news out of the way, because that is really dominating the news cycle right now. Earlier today, I saw a photo from space of the Atlantic, and there are 4 major storms there. Florence, of course, is aimed right at the Carolinas and Virginia. Helene is aimed into the Caribbean. The other 2, fortunately, are going to just drift northward over the Atlantic and not be a trouble to much of anybody except the shipping lanes here. Florence has weakened to a Category 3, which is a little bit of good news. I know a lot of people were worried about these 12 nuclear power plants that are in the path of the storm. But according to FEMA, they can withstand a Cat 4, and Florence is now down to a Cat 3, which doesn't mean people should relax. This hurricane is being billed, if you will, as the worst disaster since Katrina, and hopefully FEMA is going to react to this one a little bit better than they did to Katrina, which I think the absence of response and the lack of preparedness was as big a disaster as the storm itself. Out here in Hawaii, Olivier stalled, was supposed to be right over us right about now, and we're under the leading edge of the storm, but the center of the storm is still just slightly east of Maui. It's slowed way down, and my calculations are that it will be here about dinner time. So as you can see, we've got electricity, we've got our internet, we've got our show. We're live and ready to go here. Okay, getting into the news here. First of all, I want to wish a happy birthday to Leonard Peltier. And I would like to think that Trump would issue him a pardon after all these years of injustice. And if you don't know who Leonard Peltier is, you can do a web search about it. And there's a wonderful documentary out there called Incident at Oglala. It's actually narrated by Robert Redford. I think the Sundance Institute helped finance it. And it's about this incident at the Oglala Reservation in which some FBI agents were killed and Leonard Peltier got framed for it and thrown in prison. And everybody who's looked at the case is saying, yes, it was an obvious frame-up. The FBI wanted to save face. They needed to have somebody that they could blame the killing on because they couldn't find anybody else. So Peltier got railroaded into jail. There's a Val Kilmer movie called Thunderheart, which is loosely based on the same case. It's the only Val Kilmer movie I really, really liked. So Leonard Peltier, happy birthday. We hope that your next birthday sees you as a free man. Getting into the news here, yesterday, of course, as you remember, was the anniversary of 9/11, and we're still seeing a lot of material coming out on the independent media and the internet about 9/11. There was this interesting little article that came out of Aletho News, Who's Still Afraid of 9/11 Conspiracy Theories? And it basically goes on in saying it would take a small book to document the Israeli connection to 9/11. And they make a mention of Justin Raimondo's book, The Terror Enigma. But you had the 5 dancing Israelis who were seen celebrating and videoing as the Twin Towers were struck. And then you had, in fact, these dancing Israelis worked for Urban Moving Systems, which was later determined to be a Mossad front by the FBI. And despite failing numerous polygraph tests, the young men were sent back to Israel 2 months later. Back home, several of them appeared on a TV chat show where one of them said, our purpose was to document the event. Then we have the story of Adigo, an Israeli-owned instant messaging service which received a warning of the coming attack on the World Trade Center. Their office in New York was just a few blocks away. They received a warning before the aircraft involved in the attacks had even left the runway. And yesterday we mentioned how Zim Shipping Company, which is part owned by the Israeli government, broke their lease, paid a huge financial penalty to move their headquarters from the 16th floor of the World Trade Center over across to, well, this article says Norfolk, Virginia. I thought it was New Jersey. This was just 1 week before 9/11, and they paid a $50,000 fine for breaking their lease. And by the way, none of these facts are ever mentioned in the 9/11 Commission's 567-page report. So, Paul Craig Roberts is out with an article, The Costs of 9/11 Continue to Mount, and basically starts out saying there are large numbers of experts have established conclusively the official government accounts of the event are false. And every year, fewer people believe the unbelievable theory that a handful of Saudi Arabians outwitted the entirety of the U.S. national security state and attacked with hijacked airliners the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. Nevertheless, the official story still stands. It will always stand. Just like the official story of Kennedy's assassination still stands, even though the majority of Americans no longer believe it. Just like the official story of Saddam's nuclear weapons still stands. Just like the story of Israel's attack on the USS Liberty just being an innocent mistake still stands, despite the evidence to the contrary. The U.S. government never corrects its proven lies. It can never admit that it's lied to the American people, or the American people start looking at everything they've ever been told by the government and say, you know, I think maybe that's not true. Like torpedoes in the Gulf of Tonkin, Spanish mine in Havana Harbor, Pearl Harbor being a surprise, the Lusitania not smuggling weapons to Great Britain, so forth and so on. But Paul Craig Roberts are saying people all over the world are amazed that Americans could witness the videos of these buildings coming down into their own footprint and still believe the official government lies, although only a minority of Americans still do. We're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. Now, James Fetzer was out there saying that basically 9/11 was intended to be the new Pearl Harbor to instill fear into the American people in order to get them to go along with the war agenda crafted by the Project for the New American Century. And for a short time it worked. when the U.S. went into Afghanistan, the American people were out there saying, oh yeah, we got to do that. They did 9/11. But as more and more wars have been started, and as the U.S. government keeps changing, who was responsible for 9/11? The American people have caught on to this. They have caught on to this. And most Americans are now realizing the U.S. started out blaming Al-Qaeda for 9/11, and here we are 17 years later, and the U.S. is working with and protecting Al-Qaeda. There's a head-scratcher. Now, the first war that was started after 9/11 was Afghanistan. We're still stuck in there. American troops are still fighting and dying. Civilian casualties are at record high, and the Taliban now controls more territory than they have since 2001. But the U.S. has access to all of that oil and, of course, the opium. All those poppies blooming in those fields, guarded by coalition troops. That's what Afghanistan was really all about. 500,000 people slaughtered, $4 trillion wasted since 9/11, and Al-Qaeda seems to be stronger than it ever was. Something is not right here. Okay, over at the United Nations, Miss Nikki, and I'm going to call her Miss Nikki from now on in the spirit of Miss Cleo. Remember Miss Cleo? Fortune teller would advertise on TV, call on in and I'll tell you your future. And last week, of course, everybody was making fun of Nikki Haley for saying that she absolutely knew that if there was a chemical attack in Syria, it would be Assad. And so everybody's calling her a psychic and a clairvoyant and a seeress. So I'm going to call her Miss Nikki from now on. So Miss Nikki is out there warning Russia and Iran of dire consequences if they continue air assaults on the last rebel-held area in Syria. How dare you attack those terrorists? And Russia's ambassador to the United Nations has ramped up the war rhetoric and responded to Haley's threat with the denial that Syria has any chemical weapons because they surrendered them all. Now, Russia has asked the United States, okay, show us where Syria's chemical weapons are located. The U.S. is, to put it mildly, reluctant to do so. Now remember, in between these intermittent claims that Assad is gassing his own people, the U.S. claimed to be in Syria to get rid of ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And now Syria and Russia are actually doing it, and the U.S. is standing there saying, don't you do that. Don't you go after ISIS and Al-Qaeda. It'll be a humanitarian disaster. And of course, the United States government was not all that concerned about the humanitarian disaster when they bombed Raqqa into rubble. Okay, we're going to take a phone call now. Steve Elkins, aloha, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Mike, I don't know if there's any researchers listening to your show today, but I'd like to know if we could find out who the agents were and all the people that signed off on releasing the dancing Israelis. I would like to know more about that. Who were the people behind the scenes there that allowed them to go back to Israel? Because clearly they were there to film the event, so they had prior knowledge. And again, once again, the classifying of that video footage for what reasons? If it says exactly what they say happened, then there's nothing wrong with showing the video, and classifying it tells me that there's a cover-up here. But I would like to know the individuals that were behind the sign-off to say, let him go. There's got to be a trail there somewhere. Hopefully somebody can have, maybe Fetzer's listening to the program right now. Somebody should be able to locate who signed off on allowing these people to escape, go back to Israel.
I would be very surprised if there's a paper trail on there. But I suspect the only reason to classify that video shot by the dancing Israelis is that it records the first impact of the plane into the World Trade Towers, which would make it very obvious they knew in advance it was going to happen. And remember, when the police arrested these dancing Israelis, and two of them did turn out to be Mossad agents, they brought out the bomb squad dogs, and the dogs alerted to the van. Then they failed all these polygraph tests, and yet, yes, somebody somewhere said, get him out of here, get him back to Israel. And that's what happened. And I would imagine that order came from very, very high up. Remember that Carl Cameron 4-part story on the Israeli spy ring included a U.S. government official admitting there were links between those arrested Israelis and 9/11, but those links were classified by the U.S. government. So it was all a big hush-up. It's all a big cover-up.
Yeah, that bothers me. I started thinking about that. Went back and listened to your show again last night, and I started thinking, who signed off on that? You're probably right. They probably erased the trail, but I would like, if it still exists, I would like to know who they are. Really would.
I would too. It's one of the many minor details.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are now open here. Okay, the United States is setting up more military bases in Hasaka in northeastern Syria. This is coming out of the Arabic language Al-Manar news website, saying the U.S.-led coalition has resumed building 2 more military bases in the village of Jamaya, east of the town of Kamishla, as well as areas west of the town. And again, the United States does not have the permission of Syria to be doing this. Syria has not given them permission to be there. The Syrian government has not invited them to be inside Syria. There is no UN Security Council resolution authorizing the United States to be in Syria. Congress has not issued a declaration of war against Syria. This is illegal from beginning to end. And if they're setting up more of these bases, it's sending the signal that it doesn't matter what happens. The U.S. refuses to give up. They still want to take over Syria. They want to kick out Russia and Iran. They want to kick out Assad and create yet another puppet state for the U.S. empire. No matter how much of other people's money and other people's lives it's going to take. So, tensions are rising in the area, though, over a potential conflict directly between U.S. and Russian forces. And over at Fort Russ, they're reporting that Trump is considering the possibility of attacking positions of Russian and Iranian forces in the event of an attack by the Syrian army against the terrorists in Idlib. And the Russian Air Force says they will support the Syrian troops. If the Western coalition attacks the Syrian troops in Idlib, the Russian Air Force will protect them. So this is getting very, very real. And of course, Russia is still insisting that the U.S. is preparing for a false flag chemical attack that will then justify a renewed escalation of the Syrian war. My guess is probably the U.S. is going to wait until Hurricane Florence is out of the news cycle, because obviously everybody's paying attention to that. And the U.S. wants a clear media field, if you will, to launch this propaganda. So that may be why it hasn't happened just yet here. Story coming out of FARS News, the White Helmets organization is planning to transfer chemicals to new locations in Syria's Hama. And this is coming out of Arabic language Al Mayadeen TV, quoted a well-informed source in Jizr al-Shugur as disclosing the White Helmets are planning to transfer a large volume of poisonous materials to Kala al-Mazig and Kafr Nabuda in northern Hama as requested by their foreign backers. And the article went on to say the terrorists and the White Helmets are planning to make a 10-minute video of a fake chemical attack to send 2 copies of the videos to the United Nations, adding that a meeting that was supposed to be held over the release of the video has been postponed. So this is going to be a big media production. It's not going to be like the last one where the White Helmets just grabbed a bunch of kids who had dust in their eyes from an explosion, took them to the hospital and improvised. This is a big, big production. There's going to be real dead bodies. There have been reports the White Helmets have been kidnapping the families of jihadis who have accepted Assad's amnesty, and they've gone over to the other side. And for some reason, their families got left behind. They have now been taken captive, and it is expected they will be used to provide ample dead bodies for this next big production. They're going to make this one so horrible and horrific, they're going to rely on the emotionality of the video to overrule any skepticism. So just be ready for that. Now, remember a while back, there was this story that our diplomats in Cuba were being attacked with a mysterious sonic weapon that left some of our diplomats with permanent brain damage and hearing loss. And the State Department is inching closer to a conclusion as to who was to blame. And it's Putin. That's it. They're going to blame Putin. This is Putin again. He wasn't satisfied with the Skripals. Now he's going after our diplomats. And don't forget, supposedly this happened out in China as well. So the State Department believes Russia is the prime suspect in a series of these mysterious attacks using concentrated sound waves or microwaves. The U.S. still isn't certain of the exact nature of the attacks, but by golly, they know who did it. If at first you don't succeed, lie again. Meanwhile, battleforworld.com has an interesting article quoting a Russian diplomat, their representative to the UN, Vasily Nebenzia, is saying that the West is seeking to topple Russia's government using the Sergei Skripal show. Well, they're certainly pounding on that case as hard as they can, but I don't think they're getting the traction with it. And it really comes down to a simple fact. The people of the United States and the people of Great Britain and the people of the world know they have been lied to time after time after time after time. They're skeptical. They're not trusting the government or the corporate media, and that's why the propaganda isn't working. We got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back after these few words.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting Truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And yes, once again, we're out here begging you for your assistance to stay on the air, to stay on the internet, to keep up the fight against the liars who are dragging this entire planet into a global war. And if we're forced to shut down, if our equipment breaks down and we can't replace it, the bad guys win. And so ultimately, it is really up to you. Republic Broadcasting needs your help. WhatReallyHappened.com really needs your help, especially this month. So to help Republic Broadcasting, the postal address to send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a debit or credit card donation or pledge to be a recurring subscriber is 800-724-2719, extension 1 during business hours, extension 3 at all other times. And of course, donations to whatreallyhappened.com can be made at the webpage. And this month is really, really tight. So we do need your help. We absolutely do need your help. And it is appreciated. It is great. Every little tiny bit is greatly appreciated. Okay, getting on back to the news. The United States is now threatening Iran over the attack on the U.S. consulate in Basra, Iraq. That is how absurd the anti-Iran propaganda is getting. There are riots in Basra over a lack of basic living necessities, clean drinking water, electricity, and so forth. But that's in Iraq. And the U.S. consulate there came under attack, actually also up in Baghdad in the Green Zone. And the U.S. turns around and says, well, Iran is responsible. We know Iran is behind all of this, and we're going to hold Tehran accountable if there's any more violence against the U.S. consulate in other countries, which is a little ridiculous, I think. Story coming out of the Daily Mail in Great Britain, and I think this comes under the category of whom the gods would destroy, they first make mad. Apparently, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has, at least tongue-in-cheek, rebranded his agency the Department of Swagger on Instagram, and he put his own picture into a mock-up department seal. And it's basically a ego run wild. So Pompeo is getting ready to use Instagram to post images of his globetrotting and shuttle diplomacy. He's acting like he's on vacation as he goes around to these other countries and threatens them with war. All right. Story coming out of the Gray Zone Project. This is by Max Blumenthal. Apparently, the U.S. government is now meddling down in Nicaragua. And they're actually out there boasting that they're laying the groundwork for insurrection. It's like the United States can't seem to keep its hands off of Nicaragua. They've been messing around in there, going all the way back to the 1980s between the Contras and the Sandinistas. And while the media is portraying the current violent protest movement as a progressive grassroots upswell, this country's own student leaders are saying, no, this is something else. They were taken to Washington, D.C. on the dime of the U.S. government-funded right-wing advocacy group Freedom House, and they were basically taught how to agitate to bring down the government. And Freedom House has been caught up in a lot of these other covert overthrows of other countries. Freedom House is kind of like this school for dictators down in Georgia, where they'll recruit people from other countries, bringing them to this school of the Americas, where they're literally taught how to overthrow their government, take control, and maintain control, including the use of torture and secret police and so forth and so on. Now, the White House has announced that talks are underway with North Korea over setting up a second summit meeting between President Trump and Kim Jong-un, as is an attempt to put the stalled nuclear negotiations back on track. Well, the reason they're stalled is really very simple. North Korea has made several concessions. They've shut down their nuclear test site. They tore down that missile test stand. They returned the remains of soldiers who were killed at the beginning of the Korean War. They're allowing South Koreans to reunite with their family. Kim Jong-un and Moon Jae-in are talking about reopening the rail lines and bridges across the DMZ. Now Kim Jong-un is waiting for the United States to make a concession, to either ease some of the sanctions or stop those military exercises, or more importantly, formally end the Korean War. And the United States hasn't done a single thing to demonstrate its good faith. We got to take another break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
The First Amendment in the Bill of Rights limits the government's power by ensuring freedom of speech and preserving the rights of the people. Every day that passes, our rights gradually slip away. It's time to take a stand and let the government know we're tired of losing our rights. LibertyStickers.com will allow you to express your rights and allow millions of people to see you stand up for what you believe in. LibertyStickers.com carries the largest selection of bumper stickers online, ranging from political to humorous, and is your #1 source for Ron Paul for President stickers. As always, you can find your favorite stickers that protest the war and the president. Don't see what you're looking for? Liberty Stickers will custom make stickers that will let you get your message across for all Americans to see. Go to LibertyStickers.com and see pre-made stickers that will get everyone talking. That's LibertyStickers.com, or call 877-873-9626. Liberty Stickers, the world's most dangerous stickers.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
Welcome to What Really Happened Radio. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. And now, set your eyes on the future and let's consider what really happened.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to take a phone call now from Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
I don't want to bring up 9/11 again because it was yet. Mike, did you know there was another flight? Remember, like they let Bin Laden and the intelligence, Saudi intelligence, leave on 9/11. George Bush and the Pentagon, Department of.
Yeah,
you know there was an El flight.
Yeah, even though all passenger flights were grounded, to sort of maximize the shock effect across the country, the Bin Laden family was allowed to leave the United States to avoid any possible backlash and repercussions. Like I said, the Bin Ladens are very wealthy. They're into construction all over the Mideast. They get a lot of U.S. government contracts, and George Bush was business partners with Osama bin Laden's older brother, Salim bin Laden, in Arbusto Energy, which went bust, and then Salim bin Laden died in a small plane crash, which tends to happen a lot around the Bushes and Clintons.
What doesn't go bust with the Bushes?
Certainly the nation has.
But Mike, there was also an El Al flight out that day. Did you know that?
I was unaware of that.
And I forgot his name, Olmert. Like he was prime minister from 2006 to president for a couple of years. But the day before 9/11, he met at this front. It's called Wings. It's like a bikini shops that were like in Florida, and there's a couple. It was like a front.
Yes.
But yeah, Mike, like it's the 9/11 thing. Just, I mean, it still irks me. Like I said, like I was home that morning, so before I went to work in the later part of the day, and I saw that white van get pulled over. So there was definitely more than what they're ever going to tell us. And the moving companies, remember there was 2 white vans.
Yes.
So it was most likely the same moving company, because remember when the FBI raided it, it was all cleared out?
Yeah.
Right there, that tells you. Mike, I want to move on to what's going on with Syria, where I don't know if you talked about this yet. With it's coming the next few days because supposedly the filming is complete already for the attack, the big big showcase with the actors.
Yeah. I think that they're waiting for Florence to clear the news cycle because they don't want to compete with that. They want a clear field where there's nothing else going on, and boom, there's been a chemical attack in Syria. Oh, the horror, the horror. We're off to war again.
But Mike, Russia has,
it's off to war we go. Sorry, couldn't resist.
No, but Mike, Russia has the Florence thing to do the ground operations, right? I mean, I don't know how much more bombing they're going to do. I just saw a video that they destroyed a whole bunch of grads. Gee, I wonder if they came from Ukraine. Those grads.
It's kind of hard to say. I mean, everybody's shipping weapons everywhere right now. I mean, apparently any controls regarding international arms smuggling seem to have just sort of gone away. They're running the guns all over the place the same way they're running the drugs.
But I think, like, if they're going to do like a ground operation, it should be during Florence, because that will kind of be hard for the United States media and government while you have a major storm. It's going to knock the power out for that part of the East Coast for a while. Hopefully it won't come to New Jersey, but but this is the time to really do an operation of clearing out these terrorists. And Mike, they say in 10,000. I think more than 10,000. I think there's like 50,000 there. I mean, they're just counting a certain group. There's more than one group there. It's a lot of terrorists in one area. And they got booby traps and all this other. I mean, it's going to be a nightmare.
I can imagine that probably a lot of those terrorists that are now stuck in Idlib are finding their enthusiasm for the fight is declining rapidly, because they have to realize they're in a situation they can't win. They're basically trapped. They're up against, major, artillery, aviation assets, and I'm sure probably a lot of them are thinking very strongly about Assad's amnesty offer right about now.
They should, and they should this. I mean, Erdogan. I know some people think like Erdogan and Rouhani and Putin was at the Astana, right? I think that was called.
Yes.
The peace talk, but Erdogan's going to throw those group of jihadis over the cliff, because to deal with Russia is more important with the Turkish Stream and this. So those guys are going to be thrown off the edge. The Erdogan's not going to do anything to save them at this point, because there was these outposts Turkey had, and they're just been bypassed already, so supposedly. So I don't think Erdogan's really going to come to the aid of these people. These people are expendable. So if the U.S. and Britain and France want to do something, at their
Well, I agree with you, and I think that's the reason, we reported yesterday that a representative of the terrorists were threatening Turkey, saying that they had already dug a tunnel all the way into Hatay, and that if Erdogan sold out the terrorists in Idlib, that they would use that tunnel to carry out terrorist attacks on civilians and infrastructure inside Turkey. Personally, I think it's a bluff, and I'm pretty sure that Erdogan thinks it's a bluff. And if it's only one tunnel, if there is one tunnel, it's not going to take too long to locate it and bomb it into collapse.
You know why, Mike? Because the Turkish people support Erdogan. They supported him over that element of that military, and they'll back him up. And the jihadis, they won't, Mike. And Mike, one more thing. I just want people to go look at Nikki Haley. Whenever she talks, she's full of garbage. She's a garbage person, and she's not believable, because whenever she says something, it's just unbelievable the way she talks. She's lying. It's just very obvious.
Well, it's not Nikki Haley. Remember, she is just the mouthpiece for the State Department at the United Nations. Think of her as one of those little Mattel dolls with a little ring in the back, and you pull it and you let it go, and the doll talks. That's what Nikki Haley's job is. And I imagine it can be very rough to have that job and be out there trying to convincingly sell something that in your soul is an absolute falsehood, but that's why she makes the big bucks. People who are convincing liars get paid very well in this country. People who are telling you the truth, such as myself or John Stadmiller, we're not getting paid, pennies. We don't even make minimum wage.
Well, just like Heather Nauer, the State Department. That's why they go to Alcoholics Anonymous after, they leave.
Yes.
They're all they're all messed up because they lie for a living, just like Rachel Maddow, Sean Hannity. They're all there for making the money. They don't care if they lie to you or not, because they don't know us. All right, thanks, Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. And I remember back when Vince Foster was murdered, the White House spokeswoman, Dee Dee Myers, after Foster's death, developed a real alcohol problem, which ended with a DUI, and which in turn ended her job at the White House. All righty. Now, Sean Hannity is out there saying that Democrats could retake the House of Representatives. And he's saying the reason is the Democrats are energized and ready to impeach Donald Trump. And Democrat leaders are hinting, yeah, that's what they want. The other thing that they want, of course, is to control those House committees that are looking into the FBI and the Department of Justice and Hillary Clinton. They want to shut those investigations down. They'll steal this election if they have to. That's how scared they are. But Sean Hannity is saying raw emotion can be a powerful motivator in politics, better than economic performance. And Democrats are trying to tap into that angst, that anger. And the other advantage they have is that a lot of Republicans are not sure they trust the news about the economy. Because like everything else coming out of the government, it's a fake. It's a fraud. Now, Trump may be thinking that if he can get a major war going, that will boost support for himself and by extension the Republican Party. And it wouldn't be the first time somebody started a war timed to win an election. Now, the tradition throughout U.S. history has always been the American voters are reluctant to change a president or a Congress in the middle of a war. That's how it's worked in the past. In this case, with a war-weary American people, with 17 years of war, which has not brought any benefit to the ordinary American citizen or our country, that could backfire. A new major war in Syria, especially against the Russians, could actually sink the Republicans in November. And like I said, I don't understand why the GOP-controlled Congress and Trump have not pushed through a national voter ID law, because we know that the Democrats are bringing in the illegal immigrants and they're getting them registered to vote, even though they're not supposed to. They're relying on that. Carter Page has hit out at the corrupt FBI and Department of Justice over the newly revealed Peter Strzok and Lisa Page texts, which appear to show coordinated leaks, a targeted smear campaign. And apparently these texts are showing Strzok and Page basically congratulating each other on planting leaks in national newspapers. Now, Carter Page was placed under surveillance for months after the Department of Justice and the FBI convinced the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court he was acting as a Russian agent, using the now discredited Christopher Steele dossier, and ignoring the fact that the FBI knew the Russians had considered approaching Carter Page, but did not see him as suitable for recruitment. Apparently, the latest Gallup poll is showing that Americans, by and large, don't think Trump has done anything illegal with Russia. And apparently, 29% of respondents in this Gallup poll said they think Trump acted illegally. Now, mind you, after all these months and all this money that's been spent, Robert Mueller has not found any evidence of collusion, let alone anything that's actually illegal. Remember, there actually is no crime of collusion. Collusion is not illegal. It's just a buzzword that makes it sound like something bad is happening. They're colluding. They're colluding with each other. Oh my goodness, they must be evil. They're colluding. But that's it. They haven't found any evidence of collusion. They have found zero evidence of anything illegal being done. Now, Judicial Watch is once again having to sue the Department of Justice for Freedom of Information Act materials. Judicial Watch goes through the process of filing a Freedom of Information Act request for what are public records. None of this stuff is classified. The Department of Justice will stall and refuse, and Judicial Watch has to go to court. And it's costing Judicial Watch a lot of money and a lot of time, and it's just part of how the Department of Justice is stonewalling, hoping that the Democrats will retake the House of Representatives this November and get them off the hook. So Judicial Watch is after all of the emails found on Anthony Weiner's laptop, which are known to include some of Hillary Clinton's State Department emails, because that laptop was once used by Huma Abedin, who was Hillary's aide during all of this. And apparently, the New York police found something involving child crimes. We don't know what it is, but in the Justice Department report, or the FBI report that came out of Comey's office, and it's listing these various folders found on the laptop, one of them was listed, child crimes. Now, maybe it was just Anthony Weiner's collection of sexting images, or it may be something more. But none of it is classified information And once you start blending personal records and official government records, you get into an area of how much of that should be made visible. Because government records, that work product, belongs to we the people. And unless it is justifiably classified, it is supposed to be made available in response to a Freedom of Information Act request. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the economic news. Apparently, half of U.S. firms in China are predicting acute pain as Donald Trump's trade war with China escalates. And the American Chambers of Commerce in Beijing and Shanghai found U.S. companies there expect to lose profits as high production costs and lower demand for products kick in. Apparently, 3/4 of the companies operating over there are expecting to be harmed, half of them significantly, by these new tariffs. So let's see what's going to happen on that. Russia, Turkey, and Iran are speeding up their efforts to drop the U.S. dollar from trade. And this is, of course, in response to the U.S. sanctions. Remember, the sanctions can only be enforced if you're going through the U.S. dollar and U.S.-controlled financial transaction systems like SWIFT. If you're not using the dollar and you're going another route, the sanctions can't be enforced. So Russia, Turkey, and Iran are basically, they've been talking about eliminating the greenback, and now they're moving forward on that plan. Over in Russia, they have this investment fund, the Russian Direct Investment Fund, and the boss of it, Kirill Dmitriev, said Wednesday the fund is intending to start using national currencies in all transactions with China. The dollar will not be involved starting in 2019. And they're going to start setting up deals conducted solely in their national currencies, which really, if you think about it, makes perfect sense. Now, back in the days of Bretton Woods, back at the end of World War II, when accounts were still being settled with either boxes of banknotes, if not actual silver and gold bullion, it made sense to have a single global acknowledged reserve currency, and that was the US dollar. It had been the British pound prior to World War II. Roosevelt's price to Winston Churchill to bring the US into the war against Germany was that Britain would give up that position in finance and allow the US dollar to take over. But in today's world of instantaneous financial transaction and confirmation, a single global currency is an obsolete idea. And yet the entire US economy is now dependent on restoring that. We got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
Did you know that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Bar Association were established to benefit the American people? Have you recognized that in our country, healthcare has little to do with health, and that our court system has nothing to do with justice? The priests of both medicine and law have been incentivized to implement a dark agenda on behalf of the Bilderbergers and their ilk. To protect ourselves and our progeny, we need to take a much closer look at how these two giant industries really work. Join me, Al Whitney, on In Defense of Humanity, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, as we expose the matrix and learn how not to consent to our own destruction.
Many people tell us about their experience with Extendivite. Just listen to what Glenn has to say.
Prior to taking it, I had diabetic neuropathy. The Extendivite reduced that significantly. Acid reflux was reduced. I had athlete's foot, very severe. Trimmed that down to about 75% dandruff, almost completely gone. I had occipital neuralgia at the base of my skull. I was having migraines, reduced by about 90%. Heart palpitations, my heart would kind of stall out. I would skip a beat, very uncomfortable. And when walking from downstairs going to sleep, by the time I got to the bedroom, which is just one flight of stairs, my heart was pounding, coming out of my chest. My vision was blurry. This completely solved that problem. Great product. Thanks.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. We're welcome back to the show. We're talking about the economy. Iraq is now officially removing the U.S. dollar from their trade with Iran. And that may be at the heart of this effort by the United States to try and drive a wedge between Iraq and Iran, such as blaming Iran for the damage to the U.S. consulate in Iraq. But Iraq is saying they're officially removing the U.S. dollar in trade with Iran, and they have established a legal limit for passengers to carry along euros into the Islamic Republic. So what is the U.S. going to do? Invade Iraq yet again? Say, you will use the dollar. Jim Rogers, in an interview in Russia Today, is saying the U.S. dollar is just a few years away from losing its global dominance. And if it hasn't all fallen apart before then, that's when it's really going to fall apart, because it is forcing other countries to use our U.S. dollar and charging them interest on it. That is really propping up our economic system. Okay, we're going to take a phone call from Milton in Pennsylvania. Aloha, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Michael. I had a question. I don't know if it's possible, but you know, you're a scientist there. The bunker busters that they use in law. When a hurricane starts developing, would there be any way to avoid that by bombing it or something?
No, you're talking about a huge, huge system that can be like 100 miles across. There have been talks about trying to use cloud seeding or other things to disrupt that flow. But it is really a reminder that the forces of nature still greatly outweigh those of humankind. Now, here in Hawaii, we've noticed that when these storms go across the southern part of the Big Island and all that heat coming up from the volcano, that you'll see some disruption in the cloud system. In fact, we even saw that with Olivia looking at the satellite images. But as far as a single bomb, unless you're willing to use a nuclear weapon, and you're still going to have, even if you disrupt the cyclonic flow, you're still going to have the rain and the wind. And I don't think it's within the technological capabilities of humankind to control these storms yet.
Okay. And then another weather-related question of lesser importance, but I always wondered in life, if a window is closed, the glass is closed, and lightning, can lightning come through and strike somebody?
It might not come through the glass. Basically, it's going to look for any kind of an ion channel. In fact, when I was a kid living in New Hampshire, this was in the day when telephone lines and power lines were still up on wooden poles. And I remember during one thunderstorm, my mother was on the phone, and I was seated next to her, and lightning hit the pole. And I remember I was looking at our TV set at that exact moment, and this brilliant pattern of spiderweb lines went all over the front of the cathode ray tube, and we got both knocked on the floor. So, yeah, unless you've got lightning rods, which, by the way, we got the very next day, yeah, lightning could come into a home unless it's properly shielded against it. If you've got aluminum siding and it's grounded, you're probably in good shape. Otherwise, lightning rods work really well. Did you know lightning rods are actually in the Bible? You know, putting spears on the top of your house to prevent lightning from hitting you. Anyway, got to let you go. Got to take a break for station identification, and we'll be right back.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth. What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're talking about the economic news. And by the way, this is hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. So we're talking about the economic news, and we're talking about how all these countries are just getting away from the U.S. dollar. And part of it, of course, is the growing global awareness that the U.S. government is using the U.S. dollar as a bludgeon to get other countries to do what the U.S. government wants. Do what we want, or we'll tariff you, we'll sanction you, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll punish you. The other reason, though, of course, is that the dollar itself is not seen as a reliable currency any longer. And Vladimir Putin, when he was speaking at the Eastern Economic Forum in Vladivostok, said the U.S. dollar has become a risky asset. And the reason for that is America's out-of-control debt. And he's absolutely right about that. At some point, we're going to start seeing that hyperinflation as they try and inflate the debt away. And we're going to see the value of the dollar start to fall. Okay, we're going to take a phone call from Keith in Montana. Aloha, Keith. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, Mike, I was going to comment on your thesis there on Iraq. You remember Hillary Clinton in her email, well, in her video, she said that she gets a email from the CFR that basically tells her what and what not to do. And it was in, I believe in October 2016 that Trump had met with the CFR. And then if you were following on Twitter, Donald Trump's tweets there, you can see how his demeanor had changed from the anti-Syria, stay out of Syria, get it, we're not benefiting anything. But there's an article in the New York Post that kind of highlights this. But before I get into that one, remember Donald Trump came out and says that the oil in Iraq should be used for the wounded warriors. And I thought that was kind of a double-speak term, because here the U.S. had illegally invaded Iraq, destroyed it, and then now they want to take Iraq's oil, which would be used as a benefit to rebuild Iraq's not only country but their economy, and that the United States wanted to take the oil, and then or to pay for that Wounded Warriors program. And I thought that was so hypocritical, it's pathetic there. But then the article in the New York Post there came out where Donald Trump says we may get another chance to take Iraq's oil.
I saw that.
So, so when people say, it's not about the oil and all this stuff, it is about the oil. It's a transfer of that commonwealth of petrodollars to keep this currency going. And, as an American, I look at the fact that, they could turn those entire countries to glass, but they could still mine the oil from underneath it. That's all they care about.
Yep.
And a friend of mine on Twitter here just posted here something, it was in relative of 9/11. And I put, in translation, I always do that to kind of wake people up, but in translation, what Mr. Bell here was saying was that on 9/11, not only was the U.S. government willing to kill thousands of Americans and also millions of others, whether they be Arab or like that, but this is to push their political agenda. And you have to look at it that way. When you see the FBI behind all domestic terrorism, every single thing that you mentioned earlier, there's a tie between the FBI and these terrorist activities, whether they're 9/11 or these shootings over in Dakota or all this stuff. We have a cabal that's running this entire country here, and Americans still blind faithfully with this blind patriotic thing think that they're going to change anything by going down and voting like that. The country has been taken over.
Yes. I agree.
And that John Brennan article on Zero Hedge, which talks about John Brennan's links to communism and all that. I mean, if people can't see anything clearly, they may need to go see an optometrist, because we've lost the country. And the only way to do that is to peacefully get out there and either get on the streets or just boycott these big corporations, because that's the only way to shut it down, is boycott these big corporations, because they're the ones that are succeeding. And if you don't believe that, just look at the stats of the numbers of the Americans that are homeless, starving, the veterans that are dying. And that brings up the other issue. If the IG report said 307,000 veterans had died, well, then Bill O'Reilly's support our troops or shut up didn't mean anything. All it meant was support our policy. The veterans who were lied to in all these countless wars have died, not at the hands of an enemy, but of their own government.
Yes. They really have. And I remember back during the Second Iraq War, where Donald Rumsfeld literally came on out and said that the wounded in Iraq were costing too much, because when they had forecast the Iraq War, they figured more of them were just going to die outright. There would be fewer survivors, and they'd sort of calculated the cost of medical treatment based on that. And instead, because of advances, I guess, in the medics' technology there in the field, more of the soldiers were surviving. They had to be evacuated, taken up to Ramstein. And I remember Rumsfeld just bemoaning the fact that too many of those veterans were surviving their combat injuries because it was costing too much. And I remember just thinking, what an absolutely cold, callous thing to say.
Well, yeah, it's like when they listed the so-called KIA, killed in action in Iraq, that only counted for those who were actually killed in Iraq. It didn't count for those that died in transport or in Germany in the hospitals. And then we find out, like over in Ukraine right now, the German people are paying for the health care of the neo-Nazis wounded over there in the Donbass, in the Kiev area. And this is just so hypocritical, just like when you see on Israeli news that the Israelis are arming the neo-Nazis in the Ukraine to cause anti-Semitism to get the Russian Jews to move to Israel.
Yes. I mean, Israel has done that before. Israel has gone into countries and deliberately fanned up anti-Semitism to try and get the Jews living in that country to move to Israel. They went to Iran some years ago trying to get the Iranian Jews to move to Israel, and they even offered them a substantial amount of money. And the Iranian Jews said, absolutely not. We've got good lives here. We've got friends here. We've got businesses here. One of the world's oldest continuously operating synagogues is in Iran. They're not being harassed. They've got voices in the government. They're not discriminated against. And they're very comfortable where they are. And they didn't want to give that up. And it was a huge political embarrassment to the government of Israel.
Yeah, and another thing gets me, though, is, if Americans would quit reading American news and just read the Israeli papers there, because they boast about the arming of the Myanmar junta over there. They boast about how they sold the arms during the Rwanda genocide, the Guatemalan genocide. This is all in their papers. They boast about it,
Yes.
And then they're reselling the Iron Dome system that has cost hundreds of millions of dollars, which has been taken out of the mouths of Americans, to resell that Iron Dome system. And then, of course, Israel tests their dirty bomb. Could you imagine if Iran would have come out and says, Iran tests a dirty bomb?
Yeah.
So
it's a double standard. But you're right. And it's not just Iron Dome. There's been a long history of the United States developing weapons, and the American taxpayer picks up the cost of that R&D, which can be huge, as we've seen with the F-35. Then they sell or give some of these weapons to Israel. Israel reverse engineers them and starts selling the technology to other countries, including countries that don't like the United States. And they're making a huge profit off of all of that. And one of the ways that the U.S. government transfers weapons to Israel is they'll order more than the Pentagon needs of a particular weapons platform. And then they'll ship off what the Pentagon wanted. The rest will be declared surplus and sold to Israel for pennies on the dollar, even though it's brand new, just out of the factory hardware.
Right. And there's another article there on Military Times. Trump, with his troop surge back into Afghanistan there with 10,000 more troops, and he's calling for NATO members to increase theirs too. Then you have the article from Military Times that says $700 million worth of U.S. ammo went missing. So that means that U.S. troops thrown into Afghanistan are going to be killed by their own weapons or ammunition from their own government.
Probably.
So, anyway. All right, thanks, Mike. You have a good day. Best of Claire, okay?
All right, thanks an awful lot, Keith. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are now open. We're going to do a shout-out to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining the network. Getting on back to economic news, over in Turkey, President Erdogan has appointed himself the head of Turkey's sovereign wealth fund. And apparently he's also completely changed the fund's board, naming Finance Minister Berat Albayrak as his deputy. And the revamp is the latest in a series of steps Erdogan has taken to assume new powers since he won a presidential election last June, heralding the move to an executive presidency. It's consolidating power here. Here in the United States of America, and I know there's a lot of cryptocurrency fans out there who don't want to hear it, headline from 12160.info, Bitcoin hits rock bottom. And it's not just Bitcoin, all the cryptocurrencies are in trouble. In early January of this year, there were 42 different cryptocurrencies valued at greater than $1 billion. Today, there are just 15. And they're worth considerably less. Article coming out of IntelliHub, the cryptocurrency crash is now worse than the .com crash. And we've been seeing the cryptocurrency spiraling downward in recent months, and it looks, it's plummeting worse than the .com bubble did in the year 2000. Now, I like the idea of a currency that is not issued by a private central bank at interest. But once you had a currency that was completely virtual and lived in computers, you knew there was going to be manipulation, there was going to be hacking. People were writing malware to mine Bitcoin on other people's computers, and it turned into a vast criminal enterprise that discredited the idea behind it. But I still think a decentralized currency is a good idea if you can make it work. And probably longtime listeners and readers will remember, I wrote an article a while back about an idea called the Lectro. And the idea was that we needed to go back to a commodity-based monetary system. But I didn't want to use silver or gold because they were in limited supply. And when you have a commodity base of limited supply, it's open to hoarding and manipulation. If you remember the Hunt brothers back in, I think it was 1990s, tried to corner the silver market and drive the prices up. So I postulated the idea of having a monetary unit based on a unit of electricity, because electricity is a universally recognized commodity. Everybody needs it. And I wanted to base the Electro on a kilowatt hour of electricity. And the idea was that anybody could put solar panels on their roofs or windmills in their yards, and any electricity they weren't using for their own home could be converted into Electros in the bank. And it would have to be tokenized so that you would have a claim check, if you will, like the original monetary system of the United States. There'd be paper notes and coins, but they wouldn't be the money, they'd be a claim check. And much to my surprise, there's a group that's actually started to try and work out the idea, and they actually made a Electro coin, which I'm a little pleased with. Let's see if that's focusing for the people at YouTube. Yeah, there it is. So there could be other ways of doing this as well, but we've got to get away from this idea that we should all remain permanent debt slaves to a privately owned bank that just creates money out of thin air and loans it into circulation at interest, because that is the reason all of these countries around the world are in serious debt trouble, because private central banks are designed to produce more debt than money with which to pay the debt. It doesn't matter how hard you work, doesn't matter how much you sacrifice, you can never acquire enough money to get out of that debt. It is a trap. It is designed to be a trap. It is not about economics. It is a system of enslavement. And I don't want to be a slave to bankers anymore, especially because they're such disreputable people. Okay, Iran is now investing abroad in other countries to get medicines and tech in order to get around the U.S. sanctions. They're basically setting up this foreign investment fund that will give it access to technology that is otherwise hard to come by. Now, the U.S., as you remember, it claimed Iran had violated the nuclear agreement, and it unilaterally withdrew in May of this year. Meanwhile, the IAEA is insisting Iran has and is fully in compliance with the agreement. Actually, I remember back when this was all coming down, when Trump was saying Iran has violated the agreement, and the IAEA came on out and said, no, Iran is in compliance. And Trump came back and said, well, Iran has violated the spirit of the agreement, which is kind of a real fuzzy thing. How do you prove that one way or the other? But for Trump, it was enough to pull out of the deal and start slapping sanctions on Iran, trying to cripple them, leading to an eventual war. All right, we're going to take a phone call. Joe in Tennessee, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. I hope we don't have a war with Iran, but we'll see. But I wanted to talk to you about your idea about a monetary unit, and I wanted to let you know that I was over in Africa a couple of years ago, and they really, that was in Mauritania and Senegal, and they have, really flimsy currency there. But the people, what they trade is phone credits and phone cards.
Yep.
So that's becoming a monetary a form of money there, and it really kind of works good. And because you need to be able to use your phone, and they use it for internet also. So I think your idea is a good idea because it's something you use. It's a practical use idea, and I think you can combine your Electro with the phono or the info. I mean the internet or.
Well, money money is whatever two parties agree to use as a medium of exchange. And throughout history, there have been all kinds of commodity bases, special certain select shells in the Pacific Islands. There are places where a gallon of gasoline is considered a unit of monetary value. All a commodity has to be is something that everybody recognizes as a thing of value, and you can base a monetary system on it. So I picked the electro because, again, as the population grows, the available electric supply will grow with it, and that forestalls the possibility of hoarding and manipulation by the money junkies.
Right, and I agree, and I think using the phone credits and internet credits is also a good idea, and it's actually in operation in areas of Africa, and it's actually working. I do find that it's interesting how, like, alcohol and tobacco, and if you look through our history, how many commodities at one time or another were a form of monetary, money and barter, and how that was kind of taxed by the government, and kind of anything that's like that is usually, gotten a hold of somehow through regulatory means by the government, so that they can keep it from becoming a currency, because they don't want to give up their power.
No,
the monetary
they definitely
people.
don't. Quick little story here, because we're almost out of time. Do you know those little tiny glasses they have in bars with just an ounce of alcohol in them? They're called a shot. Do you know where that originated? During the gold rush, because bullets were used as a unit of currency. And so somebody would go into the bar and say, "Give me a shot of whiskey." That's the origin of that term, because they would pay for that shot of whiskey with a bullet. Joe, got to let you go. Got to take a break for commercials, and we will be right back.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read a few from Amazon.com. Dr. Sam Serino reviewed the Extendivite product. Good ingredients, feeling much better since taking product. It seems that the tablets work well. Once again, thank you for your product. My acid reflux has really improved thanks to the Extendivite. Together with my thumb joints, the pain is gone and I'm able to grip things much better. My friend has peripheral arterial disorder and their lower legs were hurting in a red color, but thankfully there has been a significant improvement. Kind regards, Janice. My husband feels a big difference using Extendivite. Thank you. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay. Unemployment is...
And aloha America, welcome back to our show here. We're still talking about the economic news. Now, the Royal Bank of Scotland's chairman has admitted that it is unlikely the government will get back all of the 45 billion pounds pumped into the bank as a bailout. And Sir Howard Davies said restructuring costs, losses on loans, and selling businesses meant RBS was valued at less than the taxpayers paid for their stake. So once again, we see it all over the world. Banks will get into trouble, and ordinary people are expected to cough up the money to get them restarted again. We saw it here in the United States back in 2008 with TARP and all these other things. Every time the banks get into trouble, oh, bailout, we got to have a bailout, got to have a taxpayer-funded bailout. You know how important banks are to the scheme of things. We've got to have another taxpayer-funded bailout. And it goes over and over and over again. Remember the S&L crisis back in the 80s. Same thing. The Resolution Trust Corporation that was putting all these S&L accounts back together was funded from tax dollars. Ultimately, the poor are made to pay for all, to paraphrase Umberto Eco. Over at JP Morgan, apparently a bunch of their junior bankers have been fired for cheating on an accounting test. And what's really amazing is supposedly this accounting test is viewed as relatively easy. But apparently these bankers were found with crib notes, or they were caught copying fellow bankers' answers. And according to the Daily Telegraph, these JP Morgan bankers, several of whom are from overseas, were told to pay for their own flights home. Well, that's good. They definitely deserve that. But, you know, banking is not a science. Banking is actually operating as a religion. It's a set of arbitrary rules written by the priests that you are taught to believe represents something real. And those rules are designed to take wealth out of the pockets of the people and move it to the bankers bit by bit, day by day. That's really what's going on here. There's nothing real about banking. It's an illusion that you are taught to believe represents something real. I remember when I was in grade school getting the little film strip, you know, about how the Federal Reserve, this is how it operates. This is the only way we can have the economy of the United States. They were drumming it into our little heads. You know, this is how it is. Don't even think there might be a different way to run the national economy. Don't dare remember that this country was started without a private central bank. And it did quite well without a private central bank. Down in South Africa, things are not going well. It's being described as close to a war zone. They're averaging 57 murders a day. This is coming from the police minister. And some 20,000 people have been killed across the country in the last year. Some of it is linked to gang violence in Western Cape Province, Cape Town. The rest of it is linked to this series of attacks on white farmers. Now, Italian officials are basically pushing back against the United Nations. The UN is trying to come on down and insist that Italy go along with the open borders and the migrant agenda. And the Italian minister, Matteo Salvini, is saying we don't need lessons on immigrants from the United Nations. We can look with our own eyes and see what's going on in our country from having too many immigrants, from having unchecked immigration. And we're starting to see that pretty much all across the EU. This open borders policy in Europe and here in the United States has proved to be a disaster. I mean, here in the United States, the illegal immigration has become a threat to our political system because of the Democrats' desire to have illegal immigrants vote in our elections, even though they're not supposed to. Voting is a right of citizens. You can't just walk into another country and vote yourself free stuff. And if you look at the downfall of ancient Rome, allowing people to vote themselves free stuff is a dead-end street. And we're already getting into that bread and circuses phase. The refugees and the illegal immigrants are getting all kinds of free stuff. They're being treated by the U.S. government better than the American citizens are. And you have lots of circuses, like this whole thing about Kaepernick there on TV. All distractions. It's not going to work out in the long run. Anyway, we got to take yet another break for commercials. We'll be right back after these few words.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to. So I like to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. Recently, I started having a nagging bicep pain, and it got so bad I couldn't even lift the weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend, he told me about Angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages. You know, after just 1 week of taking Angioprim, the pain was gone, and now I'm back in the gym full strength. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. So to learn more, go to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com, or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim toll free at 877-882-7221. You'll feel better with more energy. Call 877-882-7221 or go to the website angioprim.com.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. Airoutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. Airoutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
If you've got the money, honey, we got the bombs. We'll plant 'em anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you got the money, honey, we got the bomb. If you got the money, well, we won't say we did. The towers in
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're talking about immigration and open borders. Apparently, the number of Germans killed by foreigners is the highest it has been in years, and it is on the rise. And there was a total of 731 homicides recorded in Germany last year. In at least 83 of the cases where the victim was German, law enforcement identified at least one non-German suspect. And the numbers, the BKA, the Federal Criminal Police Office, refused to specify the nationality of the suspects. But it doesn't take a Sherlock Holmes to realize that having those open borders is causing problems. And I remember this ridiculous comment was here in the United States of America, where an illegal immigrant was caught for murdering somebody in this country. And people were saying, let's close the borders until we know the people we're letting in are safe. And somebody tried to defend the open borders saying, well, white people commit murder too, so that makes it all right. No, it doesn't make it all right. It doesn't matter if you're white, brown, black, green, peach, taupe, or mauve. If you commit a murder, you've done something wrong. But why have an open border and just allow anybody to come on in knowing you're going to get people of ill will? And I really get tired of the open borders people screaming that we're all racists. No, we're not racists. Illegal is not a race. And if you really want to get them upset, when they say we should have completely open borders, everybody should go wherever they want, and say, okay, why do you have locks on the doors of your home? That'll really get them angry at you. Apparently, a Syrian refugee living in Canada has been arrested for the 2017 killing of a Canadian teenager whose body was found in a secluded area of a park outside Vancouver. So there's your cultural enrichment for you. Over in Spain, around 1 million people took to the streets of Barcelona to demand Catalonia's independence from Spain and call for the release of jailed secessionists. And apparently there was literally a 3.5-mile stretch of the city completely filled with people, most of whom were dressed in the colors of the Catalan separatist flag known as the Estelada. And here is a good one, and again, part of your cultural enrichment. Apparently, monkeypox has been found in Great Britain for the very first time, and yes, it was brought in from outside the country. A Nigerian individual who flew into Great Britain a week ago has been diagnosed with the bug. This has a 10% lethality rate, meaning 1 out of every 10 people who gets monkeypox will die. And by the way, it scars your skin hideously. There is no vaccine. Now, like Ebola, monkeypox resides in wild animals. Well, they don't actually know that. They've never found the natural host for Ebola. But monkeypox resides in wild animals, but humans can catch it through direct contact with the animals, such as handling monkeys or eating inadequately cooked meat. Now, obviously, if you've got a human who's carrying the virus and you're in contact with them, that can be an issue. And health officials are trying to figure out where this Nigerian individual went. Who did he interact with? This could be a serious, serious problem. So there's more of your cultural enrichment at work there. Over in Boston, which is known for having some of the worst traffic in the country, the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety is trying to convince cities, not just Boston, but everywhere across the country, to lower speed limits from 30 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour. The program is called as Vision Zero, and they're insisting that they have statistics showing that cutting off that 5 mile an hour from the speed limit will improve traffic safety. And this has become a tremendous controversy because the National Motorist Association is accusing the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety of cherry-picking the data to convince Americans that lowering the speed limit 5 miles per hour would save lives. And it turned out that a study conducted in Boston found that the mean speed of drivers under 30 miles per hour was 24.8 miles per hour. They were already under 25. And after they installed the 25 mile per hour signs at huge cost to the taxpayers, the mean speeds remained exactly the same. So what's going on here? Well, because lowering the speed limit increased speeding ticket revenue by 47%. It's not about traffic safety. It's about finding another way to gouge ordinary Americans by a government that is just going broke. And this is not the first time that happened. If you're my age, you remember when freeways had 60 mile per hour speed limits. And then there was this big campaign to go for the double nickel, because if we lower the speed to 55, we're going to save all kinds of gas economy, and there's going to be all kinds of safety. None of which happened. But speeding ticket revenues soared. Now, getting into the world of political correctness, over at John F. Kennedy High School in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, they're now forcing their English students to learn gender-bending pronouns and engage in discussions of sexuality and anti-white propaganda. Apparently, this teacher, Emily Thompson, handed out an assignment which a student posted to social media. And this assignment basically was supposed to detail power and privilege in America, which basically means people born in the U.S., white people, Christians, the middle owning class, heterosexuals, men, and veterans as the oppressors of everybody else in the United States. Now, supposedly the school has a policy against discrimination based on race, creed, and sexuality. I would say this teacher's assignment is absolutely baffling. But this is what they're teaching kids in school, that ordinary Americans, white, male, heterosexual, hardworking people are the enemy, that we are the oppressors of all these people who are coming over the borders. This could lead to yet another possible civil war. And how is this actually preparing these kids for any kind of a place in the nation's economy? Whatever happened, when I was in English class, it was all about being able to spell correctly, to diagram sentences, to use good grammar, and be able to write in a way that made actual sense. And of course, there was a lot of reading of the classics, like Huckleberry Finn, which I understand is now banned in schools as being racist. Whatever happened to reading, writing, and arithmetic? These kids are being brainwashed and indoctrinated. I'm glad that one student posted the assignment online, because this stuff does have to be exposed. This kind of heavy-handed indoctrination, and it gets worse. Apparently, the Trump administration, through the Education Department, is now adopting the new definition of anti-Semitism in schools. And the policy change was outlined in a letter last month by Kenneth Marcus, who leads the Education Department's Office for Civil Rights, and it's directed at schools, and they were running an investigation about discrimination against Jewish students. And so Marcus wrote that the Education Department, in its investigations into discrimination, would adopt the working definition of anti-Semitism that is being promoted by Israel. And by the way, it's also been adopted by the State Department. And they've defined anti-Semitism as demonizing or delegitimizing Israel, holding it to a double standard not expected of other democratic nations. That's all now anti-Semitic. And it's basically, the Jewish activists want this to curb dissent on campuses. They want to suppress any discussion of what's going on in Palestine. And this definition is so broad, it does rope in legitimate criticism of the actions of the government of Israel as anti-Semitism, which makes no sense at all. That's like saying that the only reason people complain about Hitler and the Nazis is they hate the German people. Down in Texas, working groups of teachers and historians and liberals are proposing the elimination of the words, quote, all the heroic defenders who gave their lives, end quote, at the Alamo from a state standard governing instruction on the Texas War of Independence from Mexico, saying that heroic is a value-charged word, yeah, and saying the reference to all defenders is too vague and covers too many individuals. And Texas Governor Abbott described it as lunacy, saying, we need to stop this political correctness in our schools. Of course, Texas school children should be taught that Alamo defenders were heroic. Again, this is another attack on our history, on our culture, on our sense of identity. Over in Georgia, there's this retired professor of mathematics, used to teach at Georgia Tech, Theodore Hill is his name, and he claims that activists successfully pressured the New York Journal of Mathematics to delete an article he had written for the academic journal because it considered a politically incorrect subject, which is the achievement gap between men and women at very high levels of human intelligence. And it was just a standard analysis where he went on basically looking, following the greater male variability hypothesis, which was first proposed by Charles Darwin. And it suggests there are more men than women at both the bottom and the very top of the distribution for intelligence scores. Nobody knows why, it's genetics. But more men than women are Nobel Prize winners and chess grand champions, and more men than women are homeless, unemployed, and in prison. Men as a group express greater variability in aptitude and ability. The difference, of course, needs not be innate. It could be from social pressures. But the social justice warriors are out there saying, oh, it's politically incorrect. We don't mention that there are differences in achievement of different people. That's politically incorrect. You're all just one shade of gray. You're all one gender. You're all equally adept. There's no difference between any of you. Over in France, students at a school were posing for the school photograph, and the image was obtained by an ad agency to promote diversity in the United States. And they promoted diversity by photoshopping the school photograph and artificially darkening the skin of students. And the students themselves saw it online, and they went public, they went viral on the internet saying, wait a minute. They fudged the picture to make it look like there are more dark-skinned people here. It's another lie. But of course, I worked in advertising long enough to know that that's kind of what they get paid to do in a lot of cases. Okay, I love this one. I love this one. Political correctness falls flat on its face. Earlier this year, it was announced that the Miss America pageant would eliminate the swimsuit competition. And instead, they would hold interviews, on-stage interviews with the contestants where they would talk about President Trump, the NFL player protest, and other topics. It would be very fascinating and politically correct. The reason given for dropping the swimsuit competition is that it would make women who don't look like Miss America feel bad about themselves. And to nobody's surprise, this year's Miss America pageant crashed in the ratings. So that's a huge, huge embarrassment there. And again, getting back to that story about how the snowflakes, the social justice warriors, aren't really offended. They're looking for targets. They're looking for targets. And this is a good one. There were two high schools, Aliso Niguel High School and Santa Ana High School, played each other in football. And following the game, Santa Ana's principal, Jeff Bishop, accused the hosting team of giving his school a racist welcome, claiming in a Facebook post that he saw fans holding up, "We love white." Oh my goodness, how racist can you get? We love white. They're racist there. Well, that wasn't the whole story, because other students were also waving "We love red" and "We love blue" signs. It was an expression of patriotism. But he saw that white sign, that's it, it's racism. Forget about the red and the blue. They couldn't possibly mean anything at all. It's racist, it's out there. We've got to fight back. Okay, we're going to take a phone call now. Charlie on Long Island, and I'm probably going to have to take you through the commercial break. What's on your mind?
Hello, Mike. First time caller here. Thanks for having me. On my mind, I wanted to first give a shout out to the What Really Happened family. I'm probably one of your youngest callers, but I'd like to just say, young people, we do care. I have a lot of friends that are not crazy Bernie bro liberals, but besides that, I wanted to talk about John McCain.
Okay.
Do you know his brain cancer? He had last words, and I thought that was interesting because he probably shouldn't have been able to talk. And I kind of have a feeling that was a lie, that he died on his own, safely next to his family.
Okay, I'm going to have to put you on hold, Charlie. We got to take a break for commercials. Don't hang up. I'm going to come right back to you.
The First Amendment in the Bill of Rights limits the government's power by ensuring the freedom of speech and preserving the rights of the people. Every day that passes, our rights gradually slip away. It's time to take a stand and let the government know we're tired of losing our rights. LibertyStickers.com will allow you to express your rights and allow millions of people to see you stand up for what you believe in. LibertyStickers.com carries the largest selection of bumper stickers online, ranging from political to humorous, and is your #1 source for Ron Paul for President stickers. As always, you can find your favorite stickers that protest the war and the president. Don't see what you're looking for? Liberty Stickers will custom make stickers that will let you get your message across for all Americans to see. Go to LibertyStickers.com and see pre-made stickers that will get everyone talking. That's LibertyStickers.com or call 877-873-9626. Liberty Stickers, the world's most dangerous stickers.
Extendivite is more than just a heart tonic. Most basic diseases are caused by yeast in the gut and metals in the liver, and we all have a bit of both. The garlic in Extendivite has a yeast-killing effect in the gut while also helping the sulfur enzyme in the liver get rid of the metals. Extendivite just may improve your overall health. Products like Extendivite are the only way we are going to get our society healthy. And if you're waiting for the government and pharmaceutical care to solve your health problems, you're going to have a long, disappointing wait, I think. Extendivite is a complete formula for extended life in the new millennium. 80 can be the new 60. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're talking with Charlie in Long Island. We're talking about John McCain. And can you just sort of pick up from where you left off?
Sure. Well, my mom has been in ICU and intensive care, and I was asking her, what are the odds of somebody being able to speak and be coherent after such a debilitating, brain cancer? And she kind of paused and said, I don't know, that's a good question. So
Well,
she came in.
It's going to depend on how big the cancer is and where it's located because, as you know, the brain is sort of has different functions in different areas. And where we saw the surgery scar on John McCain would be the prefrontal lobe, which might impact his ability to reason. But if it didn't take out a large portion of the prefrontal lobe, then yeah, he'd still be able to think and talk. The brain is wonderfully adaptable, and it can survive insult and injury.
Okay. I didn't think about that. I kind of went the other side of the fence there. All right. I just know, we know John McCain has been pictured with ISIS leaders, and it kind of just seemed convenient, the timing. And what a funeral. I mean, for somebody that wasn't president, that seems like it's very extravagant. I just realized I always skip her commercials, so it's on a podcast. Does Claire take CBD oil for her back?
Yes, she does.
Okay. What about cryotherapy? Because I do that once a week, and it really helps my back.
Well, I don't. If you mean an ice pack, yes, she uses that on a pretty much daily basis. She has a back brace. We were at the doctor's just yesterday. She is doing better. She's getting better. It's taking a while. She's very frustrated. And we actually literally get into kind of this situation where I don't want her doing any of the housework. And so I'm doing all the housework right now, and she's feeling frustrated and guilty. And I keep telling her, no, that's not appropriate. You are recovering from a serious back injury. You literally broke your back, and it's going to take a while. And she's never, it's never going to be the way it was before, but she can get back to maybe 80%. But every time I let her do any housework, she has a relapse. And, sometimes I have to Velcro her to that chair in the living room and say, just sit there and I'll do what I got to do. I got to be the only husband on planet Earth that has to beg his wife to do the housework.
I think you really are. You might be getting a Peace Prize for that. Biotherapy is it's a really, really helpful. I have a lot of my friends who have sports injuries, and I tell them don't take pharmaceutical drugs. They'll get you addicted. So just look into it. Maybe I'm not sure if it's out in Hawaii yet, but it is great for inflammation. That's basically what it fights, and I'm sure that's a main issue.
Yeah, that is an issue there, and that's what she's using the ice packs for. And we've got like 4 ice packs in the freezer just in rotation. Anyway, Charlie, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to let you go. We're coming up here on station identification, and we've got another caller waiting on the line. So there's the music. We'll be back after these few words.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you a few from Amazon.com. By Mel. Great product. My husband and father-in-law use it regularly. Both my husband and father-in-law have had significant change in their blood pressure and overall health. By Amazon customer. It works for me. Returned to buy the tincture and the capsules as they were on sale during February. Unlike some other products, this one worked for blood pressure and occasional irregular heartbeat. Extendivite produced noticeable results after just 2 bottles, a 4-month supply. I take Extendivite 3 times a day, every day. I think the supplement has helped with my increased fitness regime and to lower my blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, the history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Hour number 3. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. We've got a caller waiting on the line, but before I go to the call, as long as we're talking about John McCain, a story just came out from Political Insider on how McCain's family is going to receive a death gratuity from taxpayers, amounting to $174,000. Which keeps with a long-standing tradition of years of the senator's salary given to the deceased lawmaker's next of kin. Now, the next federal appropriations bill will include funding for this gratuity. And while this has been done before, it's one of the ways that, members of Congress clean up. It's raising a lot of eyebrows because Cindy McCain's net worth is at least $200 million. She owns $2.7 million worth of shares in Anheuser-Busch, and she is basically running the family business, Hensley and Company, which is one of the largest Anheuser-Busch beer distributors in America that has built that fortune of $200 million. So a lot of people are saying, why do we take more tax money and give it to somebody who's already rich? Well, because that's what we do in the United States of America. That's what TARP was already about. That's what corporate welfare is about. We make the rich richer. That's what made America great here. All right, we're going to go to the phones here to Daniel in British Columbia. Aloha, Daniel. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, aloha, Mike. Yeah, John McCain was such a hero. He deserves all that money, right? His family.
Yeah.
I just hope they buried him 12 feet under so he doesn't get out. But you can't outlive the dead, Steve Elkins had a question, and Dustin from New Jersey had a question. Steve Elkins asked about the dancing Israelis and who let them go.
Yes.
According to Christopher Bolin's research, it would have been Michael Chertoff, and I don't know if he mentioned Bob Mueller, because Bob Mueller was the head of the FBI, of course, at the time.
Yes.
So they would have had to sign off on it. And even if it made it to the 9/11 Commission report, there would have been no conceivable connection to bin Laden. So they would have just thought, just like the put options and so forth. As far as the flight that left, that wasn't the bin Laden's plane. There was a bin Laden plane that left that Michael Moore talked about in Fahrenheit 9/11. And I think that was a distraction, because at 4:11 from JFK Airport on the evening of 9/11, there was an El Al 747 to Tel Aviv, and Ehud Olmert was on board. He was the former deputy prime minister of Israel, former mayor of Jerusalem, and he was just released from prison for corruption in Israel. And New York and Jerusalem are sister cities.
Yes.
So he was to watch. And I think that flight was, a getaway. I phoned in yesterday, obviously, because it was 9/11. I wanted to make a point about Judy Wood. And I just think all these kookafiers, they're such a disgrace to the memory of the victims, the people who were forced to either breathe in the gas from 110 stories up or plummet. And I like your show because you still talk about 9/11, even if it's in the middle of June, you'll mention it. And you're a stick to what you can prove kind of guy. Whereas, guys like Jeff Rentz, they're talking about crop circles and UFOs, and they're, poisoning the well, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, but that plays to his audience. I mean, Coast to Coast does exactly the same thing. Okay, I'm getting an echo back of my own feed. I don't know why. Anyway, I want to get on back here. Fahrenheit 9/11 was a disappointment. Of course, Michael Moore did not mention anything about the dancing Israelis. In fact, the slant for his movie was to try and say it was the Saudis that were behind 9/11. But you need to understand that Michael Moore's agent, Isram Downs, are less than pleased with what their management has been doing. But apparently Google was working to get Hillary Clinton elected with a silent donation. And this silent donation was made to a liberal group that was creating ads and donating funds to bus Latinos to voting stations during the 2016 election in key swing states. Now, the question that remains unanswered, were they legal Latinos or illegal Latinos? We have no way of knowing. By some estimates, 3.5 million illegal immigrants voted in the 2016 general election. And I do not understand why Trump has not addressed that issue of illegal immigrant votes. He has to know it works against the GOP. It's going to work against him in 2020. We're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. And yet another story where Google executives intentionally altered search results to show social media tags that would help the Hillary campaign in 2016. And basically, this is coming out of Tucker Carlson. A senior Google employee deployed the company's resources to increase voter turnout in ways she believed would help Clinton with the election. Now, that's definitely meddling. That's definitely tampering with our political process. I mean, it's certainly, far worse than anything Russia is alleged to have done, for which there's absolutely no proof anyway. So Tucker Carlson is asking the question, did Google meddle in the 2016 elections? Yeah. Of course they did. Trump's campaign manager is now out there saying Google has become a direct threat to democracy and online freedom. And Brad Parscale did an op-ed in USA Today and laid out point by point how Google and these other tech social media giants have appointed themselves gatekeepers of online information and as political instruments of the left. And something does need to be done about it. If they cannot be brought to respect fairness and the First Amendment, then we got to find something else. I'm looking into this idea of a peer-to-peer version of Usenet. See if we can get that coded up to work on Windows machines and Macs. I don't have a Mac to code on, but we'll have to look at that. I mean, the code for UUNet and UUCP and all of that stuff is still out there for Linux machines. It just has to be adapted here. Story coming out, yet another one where YouTube is rigging their search results. And basically it's a YouTube video. I'm sorry, it was an article about YouTube where they were searching for the exact title name of an old Stefan Molyneux video called, quote, "The Horrible Truth About Barack Obama's Presidency," end quote. Put that into search at YouTube, and it didn't show up until 54 videos down and one encyclopedia article later. So they're rigging search results. They're trying to bury things that are conservative, anything that exposes the corruption and the politics. It's censorship. It is flat out censorship. There's no other word for it. And people who are on social media, I mean, if you are into cat videos, then yes, fine. Stay on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and the rest of it. But for those of us who care about this country, those of us who want the truth, clearly we have to find some other means of sharing information with each other. Even if we have to go back to what the Soviet citizens used and use fax machines. But corporate social media has become useless. Apparently, Facebook banned the founder of Walkaway just weeks before the March on Washington. Now, Walkaway, for those of you who haven't picked up on it, this is a group of former Democrats who have gone public saying they can't deal with where the Democratic Party is going, how far left it's gone, the political correctness, the thing about which restroom to use, and they've had it. And there was a big march that's coming up by the Walkaway movement in Washington, D.C. in a few weeks. And perfect timing to derail it, Facebook has banned this founder. Now they're claiming they banned him because he linked to InfoWars, which has been banned from the platform. So apparently Facebook, if you take their comments at face value, anybody who links to InfoWars will now be banned from Facebook. I imagine that's a lot of people. Now, supposedly, the Department of Justice is set to open a probe into the social media giants for an anti-conservative bias. Now, this is being run by Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Now, being a Republican himself, we might actually get some action out of him. But apparently, on the 25th of this month, he will be briefed by Republican state attorneys general who are already examining the practices of Google, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. Apparently, a lot of people are very angry about this all over the country. I'm angry about it. And I don't even use those platforms anymore. But the First Amendment right to freedom of speech and the right to peacefully assemble is an absolute. There's no gray area about it. And given how important social media has become, I think it needs to be enforced as a fair and balanced conduit. They shouldn't be allowed to exploit their position to become the gatekeepers and guide the political discussion of the nation. I mean, if you really think about it, by selectively filtering certain articles and promoting others, they're engaging in propaganda against the American people. Over in Europe, the European Union has approved that controversial copyright law, which basically could kill off user-generated content. They've got an overly broad definition of copyright, and it basically kills memes, reaction GIFs, quotes from online articles, music remixes, and it's just absolute sweeping. And I imagine that there are a lot of people who would like to see that here in the United States of America. They want the user part of the internet to go away. They love the corporate part of it, the part that makes money. They love that part. But they want the peer-to-peer part, those of us who are talking with each other, they want that to go away. It's costing them money, it's costing them credibility. We're pointing out where they're lying to us. Article in Blacklisted News repeating the cry. It's time for creators to really start looking at new solutions on how to get their ideas out there, their content out there. Now, one way around this copyright thing inside the EU is to create all of your own content from scratch. Instead of taking an existing photo or an existing graphic and adding to it, just create your own content from scratch. We've all got cameras on our cell phones. We can all go out and take pictures. Or you can go to websites which provide content, photos and stuff that are cleared for use, that are copyright free. But you're going to have to be careful because the EU did not pass this law for no reason. They're going to start cracking down as hard as they can. Okay, let's see. Over at Apple, which, by the way, they're having their big debut of the new line of Apple products just in time for the holiday shopping season. And apparently some of the App Store's biggest security apps have been found to be spying on the user's browsing habits. Now, Apple curates the App Store. They're supposed to be taking a good look at what these apps are doing before they're allowed to be on the App Store. But apparently they missed a few. And so they've got apps such as Dr. Unarchiver, Dr. Cleaner, Adware Medic, Adware Doctor, and App Uninstall have all been removed. And the finger of blame for some of them being pointed at security giant Trend Micro. They were some of the most popular apps in the store. But first of all, in order to work, they have to trick the user into giving them Mac OS home directory access with virus scanning and clear cache options. And once there, the apps abuse the access privileges to gather browser history data from Chrome, Firefox, and Safari, and covertly send them back to a server in China, of all places. Apparently, hackers succeeded in stealing $50 million in cryptocurrency using poisoned Google ads. See, Google ought to stop worrying about politics and start getting on back to providing a quality and safe platform for their users. But as I mentioned before when we were in the economic section of the show here, there's been a problem with hackers robbing Bitcoin investors and emptying their cryptocurrency wallets. And because of the relative anonymity of the blockchain, they're able to get away with it. Now, Cisco has exposed the thieves behind a string of particularly flagrant attacks, and it points to a Ukrainian hacker group dubbed Coin Hoarder. There's a giveaway. They've stolen more than $50 million in cryptocurrency from users of blockchain.info, which is one of the most popular providers of digital currency wallets. In fact, that's the one that I was using back when I was experimenting with Bitcoin, but I don't do Bitcoin anymore here. And apparently, they were buying Google ads, and they were basically using these ads, which had malvertising, to snatch the contents of crypto wallets, to get the passwords and the codes. Alrighty, we got a caller waiting on the line. Don in Iowa, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Mike. Yes, as far as McCain, the whole thing was ridiculous. I mean, they do this every time some guy dies. Some big politician dies, whoever it is. And you got to realize pretty close to half of the people don't like that guy at all. But they try to turn him into a saint. Same thing happened with, who was the last one? Every time, like, whenever some president dies or whatever. But also they used, as far as wasting the government's money on him, they flew him, gave him the use of Air Force Two to fly his corpse to Washington, where he could, I guess they buried him in some military graveyard there. But I mean, the lady, his wife, has probably has all kinds of private jets anyway.
Yeah.
Could have just used. And but you're talking about people to interview. Have you ever heard of this guy Bob Moriarty? He's 321 Gold is his website.
Yes, I've heard of it.
Energy Interest. He's on your side, Mike, on Israel. This guy was a pilot in Vietnam. He was the youngest aviator in Vietnam, and he's a real smart guy, and he's on your side on Israel. He learned about Israel as an intelligence officer.
All right, well, Don, thanks an awful lot for the phone call. I'm going to have to let you go. We got to take another break for commercials, and we will be right back.
Extendivite, a 7-herb combination of garlic, cayenne, hawthorn, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle. Extendivite is designed to strengthen the heart and arteries and help the body heal itself. Doctors are not able to explain the improvements they are seeing in their patients' health who are taking Extendivite. People who once needed more pills are now taking less and getting better. Due to the unexplainable improvements in their patients' health, more doctors are calling to order Extendivite for themselves. Help Extendivite make your doctor a believer. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We've got another caller on the line here, Tom in Connecticut. Aloha, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Yesterday I made mention about the frustrations of who would bring forward information about 9/11, and it dawned on me after we hung up that the Denver PBS affiliate did air Architects for 9/11 Truth in what, an hour and a half, whatever thing that they had developed to put out on that.
Yes.
And it was not picked up by any other PBS stations, and I don't know who got fired over it, but it only aired once. So that's where that thing goes.
Yeah, but you can find it out there. It's on the net. It's on
great.
YouTube.
That was a great report.
Yeah.
It's a great report, but once again, seeing it on PBS was really kind of stunning, and yet it was kind of squelched with any other further airings on any other. Like, I emailed the presidents of the New York and the Philadelphia PBS stations and said, "Why aren't you picking this up? People in our area need to be aware of this." I got no response. Anyway, I ran across this thing today called reportforthepresident.org, which is a team of intelligence agents that is quite compelling. I mean, these guys evidently were right on the case at the real time when they discovered Donald Trump was being spied on and everything else involved with that whole thing. They are supposedly, they got, once again, this website has extensive information about what they're trying to do and bringing forward the real dynamics of what was really done by the Obama administration, which they felt was inappropriate to really weaponize the intelligence agencies for political purposes.
Well, yeah, we've been seeing that. It's actually a continuation of a very long trend. I mean, as soon as the intelligence agencies were there, politicians were trying to take advantage of them for political purposes. And if you look at the history of J. Edgar Hoover, he used the FBI as a political hammer. He even blackmailed John F. Kennedy with his private secret files.
Well, I hope that these guys get some traction, and ultimately this will help the real story of what this whole thing was about to come forward, and perhaps undermine the Mueller investigation and everything else that's just a circus. So take care for today. Thank you.
All right, thanks an awful lot here. And let's see, getting on back to computers and stuff. As I mentioned earlier in the show, Apple earlier today had their grand unveiling at Cupertino for their new product line. And wags are already describing the new phone as the iPhone Excessive. And that's playing on the line being named the iPhone XS. Xerox Sierra, X-Ray Sierra rather. And it's supposed to be the follow-on to the iPhone 10. It allows you to have multiple phone numbers from multiple carriers on the same handset, which for people who need that sort of thing. But the promised drop in price did not happen. They do have a version called the XR, which is $800. But the other phones are $1,000 and more. And I think it's going to be another epic fail because people just can't afford to spend that kind of money on a cell phone. I certainly wouldn't. I absolutely would not do that. Now, another problem has hit Apple Because as you know, when you go over to the Apple Store and you can either rent a movie or you can buy it permanently. Well, it turns out the permanent is not that permanent. And the story is coming from this biologist, Anders Goncalves de Silva, who basically discovered 3 movies he had purchased through iTunes simply disappeared one day from his library. So he contacted Apple to find out what had happened, and Apple told him it no longer had the license rights for those movies, so they had simply removed them. And he responded, I didn't rent them, I actually bought them through the buy option. And at that point, Apple said, well, when you buy the movie, what you actually buy is the ability to download the movie when you want to watch it. And Apple can no longer do that. Boy, don't you miss the days of DVDs and Blu-ray discs where once you buy that movie, you own it and they can't take it away? And today, this whole licensing and copyright thing is such a mishmash where, how did Apple lose the license rights? Did they not negotiate a perpetual contract? Or did they simply decide they no longer wanted to pay a monthly licensing fee on these movies and just abandon their end users? But I can understand why a lot of people will go into their iTunes directories and they'll make their own local copies of things they buy because they might disappear. There's been a problem with Kindle. All of a sudden, books that you've bought that you've downloaded to Kindle, they'll disappear. Anyway, we'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigraLief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigraLief migraine formula. MigraLief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigraLief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354 or visit MIG911.com.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. This product is superb. I have been taking it for about a year now, and I can feel my cardiovascular system run like a Swiss watch. I definitely recommend this product for anyone that has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and heart palpitations. A+. It's potent, but it works. I have been waking up for the past 3 years with numb hands, and a week into using Extendivite, my numb hands seem to have cleared up. My circulation was off, and now it's back on track. So I'm happy. I feel so energized, and I have my husband on it now. My mother-in-law has cholesterol problems, so I bought her a bottle as well. Thank you so much. Love the product. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And I just got an interesting little email talking about just how ridiculous this intellectual property stuff has become. And the email says, there will come a day when you will have to pay someone just to hum a tune, and if you have that song in your mind, you will be prosecuted. It does seem to be headed in that direction. And you need to understand the original purpose of copyright was to allow the creator of a work an interval of time where they could profit from it. And originally, I think it was like 25 years. And after that, it would become part of the public domain. So there's another way to get around the EU ban. Use really old images for your source, stuff that is in the public domain. And all of that changed with what was called the Mickey Mouse decision. Because the Disney studios, of course, made a huge amount of money off of Mickey Mouse. They guard their trademarks and copyrights jealously. And they were very concerned that despite their lawyers' best efforts, Mickey Mouse was about to become public domain. And so they lobbied intensely to get the copyright law changed to where copyrights could be made permanent. And that, of course, is theft from the rest of us, because no longer does material enter the public domain. Okay, Google is in trouble. Apparently, they're under investigation by Arizona's Attorney General after it was revealed that Google really does record your every movement, even when you tell it not to. And basically, the Arizona Attorney General is looking into whether the search firm deceived its users, and yes, it did. If Google has this switch for location history, and you turn it to off, and it's still keeping your location history, that is deceptive. And Google could face huge fines up to $10,000 per violation if the claims are confirmed by a team of lawyers assembled by the state of Arizona. This could lead to unprecedented penalties in the United States, potentially prompting similar moves elsewhere in the world. I think they ought to go class action. And I think everybody who's ever used Google and had their location tracked is part of that class. Now, at $10,000 each, we wouldn't have to worry about Google being a political gatekeeper any longer. They'd be gone. They'd be driven into bankruptcy. And it's not just here in the U.S. they're in trouble. France is heading to the European Court of Justice to establish whether it can force Google to delist search results globally. This is a very touchy issue. Now, over in France, they have what they call the right to be forgotten law, which says that if people don't want to be on your search engines, you must erase them. And Google is saying, well, we'll erase them only here in France. And France is saying, no, that doesn't work because Google's search engine is global. People in France can still see the delisted material coming in from Google's other servers outside of France. So they're in trouble. Over in New York, they started a program 2 years ago called Link NYC. And it basically took the pedestals from the old payphones Anybody ever seen a payphone anymore? And they took the pedestals and they turned them into internet kiosks providing Wi-Fi, high-speed Wi-Fi. And a lot of people, like American Civil Liberties Union, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, including Rethink Link NYC, have highlighted the kiosk potential to track your locations, collect personal information, and fuel mass surveillance. Now, an undergraduate researcher has discovered indications in the Link NYC code, which was accidentally made public on the internet, that yes, Link NYC is actually tracking user locations. I don't know why they're bothering. I mean, your location is being tracked through the cell phone system. Maybe this is for people who have tablets and laptops, but no cell phone. But it's like everybody's just gone overboard on this surveillance and tracking. Okay, there is a CIA-backed firm. It's called Geofedia. And emails obtained by Lucy Parsons Labs are showing that this company is promoting social media surveillance of students in order to make this data available to police departments. So that's what this company is doing. They're going to scan social media and look for anything these kids are saying that they think ought to be reported to the police. And it received funding from the investment arm of the CIA, In-Q-Tel, if you've never heard that company before. Now, this company became infamous after the ACLU published a report in 2016 on the use of their products by police to monitor demonstrations against police violence. So, it's a giant vacuum cleaner for all of your data out there. And again, if you need privacy, as I pointed out before, you can in fact write your own systems of encryption that the NSA can't break. And I think people need to start doing that. And don't use them for criminal activity, use them for everything. You know, your diary, your daily planner, your checking account, Aunt Mary's top secret chocolate chip cookie recipe. If we're all encrypting everything in unbreakable codes, then the NSA can't do anything. They're stuck. What are they going to do? Make it illegal to use encryption? I think that would actually come under the First Amendment, right to freedom of speech, that I have a right to use encryption to protect my speech from government and corporate snoops. 1984 is here. Speaking of NSA, as you know, up in Utah, the NSA has this huge data center, which was controversial not only because of the obvious Fourth Amendment violations involved in its operation, but because it negatively impacted the available water supply in the area, which caused a little bit of a stir. But apparently it has been a financial boon to the area, to the point where another Utah county is planning to lure a major data center for a Silicon Valley company to the Eagle Mountain area. They're offering generous tax breaks. They're not saying who it is, but it does sound an awful lot like Facebook. And they want to lure them in there to build a data center, which they think will help develop high tech around that part of the state. Okay. There's been this associate of Julian Assange, this Arjun Kamfus, and apparently he disappeared a while ago. And a lot of people were very concerned. He didn't say anything. They didn't know if it was a vacation or if he was victim of an assassination. Police even said maybe he just went hiking and didn't tell anybody. But police did detect a signal from the phone near Stavanger, and more recently, a Norwegian fisherman who was fishing near Bodo found the belongings of this gentleman. Now, the police are not describing the exact items that were found, but apparently where the items were found and where they got the signal from the phone are some 620 miles apart. So it's looking more and more like something bad. Apparently, somebody is now posting flyers at synagogues featuring the face of Alex Jones and screaming about anti-Semitism, anti-Semitism, anti-Semitism. And there's a certain ingratitude there. Because if you've gone to YouTube and you look at Alex Jones early on, there's a video of him pledging his undying support to Israel. And he has, over the years, been very supportive of Israel. It's a subject he won't touch in a negative way, although that has changed recently. But for people to do this to him now, talk about ingratitude. It's just more propaganda here. Out in California, a jury has found that Plains All-American Pipeline is guilty on criminal charges over the 2015 oil spill near Refugio State Beach on Santa Barbara County. Saw more than 100,000 gallons of crude oil spilled and birds, fish, marine animals, and other wildlife killed. So in May 2015, the 901 pipeline owned and operated by Plains All-America Pipeline ruptured, and basically much of the oil ran down a storm drain and into a ravine under the freeway, entering the Pacific Ocean. Now, the issue here, of course, is the reason we have these pipeline failures is pipelines overall are very expensive. And the oil companies try and cut corners everywhere they can. I mean, if they were to make these pipelines double-walled, you wouldn't have a problem. If the inner pipeline ruptured, the outer wall would contain it. And they wouldn't lose the oil and they wouldn't lose the environment. But the oil companies don't want to do that here. We need to start seeing some of these criminal executives actually go to jail over this. But they never do because of the way corporate law is written, whether it's substandard pipelines or, remember, the PG&E case with the hexavalent chromium. Nobody went to jail over that. They knowingly poisoned those people in Hinckley, California. Nobody went to jail. They paid a lot of money, which ultimately meant an increase in rates to customers of PG&E, but that was it. All over the country, there is an issue called right to repair. And it's kind of an interesting concept for people who are my age, because when I was a kid, products were built so the end users could repair them. You could open up the washing machine and fix it. You could open up the oven and fix it. And most importantly, for people living on farms, you could fix that farm equipment yourself. Tractors, harvesters, whatever. And apparently, John Deere has now gone the other way. John Deere is a well-known name in farm equipment, but like so many other equipment providers or appliance providers, they're now going the route of saying, you, the end user, the owner of the appliance or the tractor, are not allowed to fix your own equipment anymore. You must pay to have an authorized engineer come on out and fix it. And out in California, this farmer lobbying group, the California Farm Bureau, which is supposed to be lobbying in the best interests of the farmers, basically went along with John Deere and said, yeah, we're going to let you cement your repair monopoly, which is exactly what it is. I remember when I had that Xterra, and when I was growing up, Again, we worked on all of our vehicles. When I went to high school, there was an auto shop class, how to work on your own car. And I remember when I was trying to go on in and make some adjustments to the Xterra, and I would go online for instructions, and they'd say, oh no, you can't do that. Has to go to an authorized service center. And it's just another way of getting money out of you. I haven't even looked under the hood of our newest car yet. I imagine it's all locked up here. There'll come a day when they won't even let you change the spark plugs, I'll bet you. Now, here is an interesting story. This is coming out of Aurora, Illinois, and it involves a convicted, or rather an accused pedophile, William Smith. He's 28 years old. He was arrested last month following allegations by his then girlfriend that he had raped her 8-year-old daughter. And the police investigated, and they discovered Smith had child pornography, and he was arrested on 2 counts related to the child pornography and 1 count of child molestation. Now, after he was charged, Smith walked free from the court after the judge controversially ruled that he did not pose a threat to the local community. And Smith was able to raise the bail required so that he could basically walk on out. Well, early yesterday morning, William Smith, minus his head, was found dumped on the doorstep of that judge. And I think somebody just sent a message regarding pedophilia and justice. So, okay. Not too long ago, grizzly bears were declared an endangered species. Hunting was forbidden. Now they've come back. The grizzlies have recovered, and now they're becoming an annoyance. And Montanans are having to get along with them. And apparently a record number of grizzly bears are getting into traffic accidents by cars as they roam the roads in and around Glacier National Park. And apparently they're also causing a lot of damage to crops and livestock. This has happened before. Remember, the global warming people were out there saying polar bears are endangered. Polar bears are endangered. You've got to be protected. Can't hunt them anymore. Now polar bears are a pest. Got to stop tinkering with nature. I remember Michael Crichton had this wonderful monograph on how badly Yellowstone was destroyed by these environmentalists with the very best of intentions who just do not understand what they're doing. All right, we're going to take a break for commercials. Back with the last segment of our program after these few words.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, 2, keep it today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. Airoutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. Airoutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to Airoutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slows circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And we've got a caller waiting on the line, our last caller for today. And that's Ken in New York. Aloha, Ken. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha from Long Island.
Aloha.
Has anyone ever tried to organize or unionize any of these social media companies? Because it seems to me that the Google employees that are living in their cars have a pretty good reason to do it. And if I understand correctly, once they start to unionize, it becomes part of a protected class.
You know, that might be a good way to go. I know that there's talk among the Amazon workers who are feeling very much abused right now that they should unionize. But yeah, I think maybe that's a good idea. That's an idea whose time has come.
Perhaps you could get one of Jimmy Hoffa's sons or grandsons to interview.
I'm not too sure about that, but yeah, I mean, the wealth inequality here is just crazy. You have Google is making all of this huge amount of money. Their top executives are living lives like royalty, and their own employees are having to live out of their cars. There is something very much wrong with that picture.
Precisely. And what happens when they can't afford the insurance to keep their cars out in the streets? The police are going to end up towing away the parked cars. I remember in the 90s when I saw a Zenith factory down in Mexico, and they had erected cardboard boxes all around the plant because the people couldn't afford to live.
Yeah.
Maybe they should erect one of these things, a demo around Google headquarters.
Maybe they should here, but again, I don't know what these people are thinking. Maybe they're thinking that all of their money is now coming from advertisers around the world, and they don't have to pay attention to the American people anymore. But if you do not allow your working class people to earn decent wages and salaries, they're not going to go to the stores and they're not going to buy things. Apple is clearly out of touch, coming out with a new iPhone that is more expensive than the iPhone 10. They're out of touch with the reality of the consumer market right now. And I think they're going to have the same failure with this, the XS that they did with the iPhone 10.
Well, if they can't find enough people in the lower class that are educated enough to run around their server farms and replace hard disks, it seems to me that it wouldn't really matter, what their view is on vis-a-vis the world. They have to maintain their own equipment.
I would imagine they're probably looking at robots to do the hard disk swaps. Anyway, listen, Ken, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to try and fit in one more phone call before the end of the show. Johnny in New York, aloha, what's on your mind?
Michael, how are you, Brother Mike? This is Johnny from New York. Yeah, just wanted to say, this a difficult time for a lot of New Yorkers like myself. I lost a couple of people, but thank you for exposing this Judaic Masonic bank cabal. They're behind this, and I will have to call you tomorrow perhaps, because I definitely have some nice information. Just a real quick question, Michael, to you. Are you familiar with gematria or isophony?
No, I'm not, and I'm going to have to let you go anyway because we're now at the end of the program, and so we have to sign off. All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow. So I should be hearing the send-off music. There it is. All right. So stay tuned for John Stedmiller. I'm sure he's got a lot of interesting things to share with you. Please take what you learn here, share it with everybody that you know. Don't go through the corporate social media. They are absolutely determined that you will not be seen or heard by anybody. Just use email, use the up-and-coming social media services, use SneakerNet, use face-to-face. Please keep hitting the fact that these social media corporations are trying to suppress conservative points of view. And that's not what we agreed to when we signed up. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.
Rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this